Throughout this movie, I kept saying to myself how much the main actress, or the main character, reminded me of Sandra Hüller from Anatomy of a Fall. The resemblance was uncanny, I thought, and it was only after the movie when I googled the cast I realized it's her. She's one of my absolute favorite actresses at the moment, and her character was so loathsome, and she's just so mesmerizing on screen every time. She fits so perfectly into the strange atmosphere of this movie. The movie itself is a masterpiece. We get a peek into the otherwise mundane everyday life of a German family, only this family lives next door to the camps in Poland, as in Auschwitz. There aren't any gruesome scenes in the movie. We never actually get to see what goes on in the camps, but of course we know. And the way the film finds ways to reveal the realities of living next door is just as horrifying. Add to that, this is based on the true story of SS Officer Hoss. You can even read his testimony from his trial at Nuremberg. He was eventually hanged for his crimes as a mass murderer. Anyway, onto the video. It's a nice day out, and it looks as though a family is having a picnic by the lake. The mom and the girls go picking berries, and the father watches over the lake as the boys swim. Before long, they make their way through a forest and back home. The husband and wife both sleep in the same room, but in separate single beds. And so in the beginning, I wasn't actually quite sure what their relationship was to one another. Also, because we don't actually see them talk or say goodnight to one another, we don't know what this marriage is like. Even though they had that day at the lake, at first the marriage does seem kind of cold. The father or husband's name is Rudolf Hoss, and he's a high-ranking military type official in the German government, Hitler's government. On this day, it's his birthday, and his wife and children have prepared a surprise for him, a canoe boat. He's delighted with this gift, and he kisses his wife and children's mother, Hedwig, goodbye as he heads off for the day. There's a hub of activity around the house as one of the housekeepers hangs the laundry, another packs away groceries. There are several housekeepers, in fact, and the house is very big, so the couple is well off. Hedwig tries on an expensive looking fur coat and tells the housekeeper to clean and mend it, so we have no idea where this came from. At this point in the movie, nothing is fully revealed. I don't even think I noticed yet what was going on next door, but the coat scene still weirded me out for some reason. Just the way the scene plays out makes you kind of dwell a little bit on its origins. And I don't know, you might even know at the back of your mind where this came from. It's confirmed in the next scene when Hedwig and some of her friends are at the house and they're talking about the clothes. Hedwig tells her acquaintance that she got the coat from Canada, but it's an inside joke between the women. They don't mean the real Canada, they just mean the place where they are. It's all kind of an inside joke in a way. They gossip about another acquaintance who took a dress from a Jewish lady half her size. Hedwig refers to the woman as a Jewess, which sounds pretty derogatory. They talk about another one of their acquaintances whose husband hits her, and another says that she found a diamond ring inside toothpaste. The women comment how clever they are, as in Jewish people. Obviously, these are items that are all confiscated from Jewish people before they're sent to the camps. This is basically a gossip catch-up session as they talk again about another acquaintance whose husband allowed her to adopt a Polish child to placate her, to convince her to stay where they are, in their stolen homes probably. Well, they don't mention the homes being stolen, I'm just assuming the absolute worst. The men meanwhile are going over plans for incinerating something. I mean, they don't refer to Jewish people in a humanized way at first. So for example, they'll say something like, in the next chamber, we have the next load ready to burn. They get pretty technical then, talking about how warm the chambers get and about the ash. They discuss ways to more efficiently carry out the incinerations, or the cremations. A way for them to continuously incinerate while cooling the other chamber simultaneously. Rudolf, or the commandant, as his colleagues and subordinates call him, greets his men outside of the house and they wish him a happy birthday. They tell him what an honor it is to serve under him. He's fairly well liked and respected. Later, the family enjoys some birthday cake. When it's bedtime, one of the sons, the older boy on the top bunk, has his torch out and he's looking at or he's inspecting teeth. I mean, who knows? They could be animal molars, but the fact that it's never confirmed, and with everything we've seen so far, I wonder if it is what we think it is. Also, I did read that the real Klaus Hoss, one of the sons, was quite cruel, so there is that. As Rudolf is closing up for the night, he sees his daughter sitting on the passage and he takes her back to bed and reads her a bedtime story. So yeah, otherwise a very normal family. When Rudolf finally goes to bed, we see the couple talk in a more intimate way for the first time. Hedwig asks Rudolf to please take her to the spa in Italy again because she enjoyed all of the pampering and she liked going for walks there. They reminisce over the last time they went and she laughs. He seems a little quiet at first, but it's clear that they do care for one another. He says that he will take her back there, he just doesn't know when. He also tells her that she smells nice, and she says, referring to the perfume or lotion that she's wearing, it's French. And then they joke about the French being pigs and they childishly make oinking noises, but they amuse each other clearly. We get a rather horrifying scene then, mostly because a lot of it is left to our imagination. A soldier stands as he gets surrounded by smoke and some ash blowing in the wind. In the background, you can hear chaos and screams, children crying. He's guarding the goings-on at the camp, obviously. Since the man is wearing a hat, I can't be sure if it's Rudolph, because I can only identify Rudolph by his strange haircuts. It could be him though. One day while out at the lake, Rudolph finds something in the water that makes him quickly get out and chase the kids out. They all rush back home and take baths where they get properly scrubbed down. They never mention what is in the water that scared them so much, so I wonder if it's some ash or is it a body part perhaps? I can't make it out, but judging by the black substance that Rudolph blew out of his nose, it has something to do with next door's activities. Hedwig's mother comes round for a visit then, and also judging by the tour and the explanations that Hedwig gives, this is her mother's first time visiting. She tells her mother that she designed the greenhouse and parts of the garden herself. At one point, her mother asks if that's the camp wall, and Hedwig says that it is, but they planted some vines which are supposed to grow over it and cover it. Mother and daughter have a catch-up, and they laugh about the fact that Rudolph calls Hedwig the Queen of Auschwitz. They also speak very glibly about an old Jewish employer whose house the mother used to work in, and how she, the mother, bid on that woman's curtains at an auction. They wonder a little bit what came of her, but you can tell that they don't really care. Hedwig's mother is really proud of her and all that she has. At one point, I think I'm imagining screams in the distance, but suddenly there is ash on the flowers out in the garden. The shouts become louder and more unmistakable then. During these moments, the vibe in the movie, I can only kind of compare it to maybe living in a place that has tremors and the people are kind of used to it. You know, they have their procedure, they go indoors, stay under the table, wait until it passes. The smoke and the ash, it's just part of life there. Next, the family has a pool party and Rudolph tells Hedwig that they've been transferred and they have to leave for Oranienburg, Germany. They have to leave this paradise that Hedwig has made for her family, a home that she's proud of. She's shocked and very distraught. I didn't mention this earlier, but Rudolph was passed over for one of the top jobs at Auschwitz. He tried really hard and someone else also tried to lobby for him, but apparently the higher ups had somebody else in mind. Anyway, so they're going to be swapping him for somebody else who will then come to live at the house, and Rudolph is going to be deputy inspector back at Oranienburg. Hedwig panics and she runs after him, trying to get him to change the situation, which he already tried to do with no success. She's frantic, she's shouting that he can't do this to her, and she snaps at the housekeepers. It's actually very satisfying seeing things come apart for her like this, because she's quite fancied herself the lady of the manor and rather above others. She later tries to get some answers out of Rudolph about when they'll be leaving, but he's just waiting for instructions. He doesn't know. Hedwig thinks that they can still try to fight this, but she eventually says that he is the one who has to leave. She doesn't have to. His job is taking him to Oranienburg, but hers isn't. Her job is to remain here and raise their children, which she will do. That had been their dream anyway, to move east and be out of the city. This is their home and they're going to have to drag her out. Rudolph says that he'll ask if it's possible for them to stay at the house, but he's not happy about Hedwig's difficult reaction. I mean, it figures because he's very much a following orders type. He announces to his family then that he's going to be going away, but he'll miss them. In the end, they do become aligned on the family staying behind and Rudolph going to work on his own. There's this scene where the Gran is sitting in the garden and we see smoke fill the air from the camps. The Gran also later sees the fires from the camps burning and she hears shouts from the distance. She seems really disturbed by the reality of life here in this so-called perfect house. Rudolph also has a lover. I'm not sure if it's one of the housekeepers, but she comes into his office, undoes her hair, takes her shoes off, and she sits on the chair quite provocatively. In the next scene, we see Rudolph washing his privates. Later on, he reads a very creepy Hansel and Gretel story to his daughter, the part where the siblings push the witch into the oven. I've actually never thought of that story as being creepy up until this movie. The next morning, Hedwig calls for her mom to come down for breakfast, and one of the housekeepers informs her that her mother has packed her things and has left. She did leave a note, which Hedwig finds and reads, but whatever's written in it doesn't have much effect on her. She disposes of it and then rudely asks the housekeeper if they set a place for her mother to spite her. Then she says that she could have her housekeeper's husband's ashes spread on the fields of Babis. I checked this reference and Wikipedia says that Babis served as a location of mass executions of Jews from the Warsaw ghetto nearby. So yeah, she's a truly loathsome monster of a woman, but I could not be more enamored with Sandra Hüller and her acting. Later in the greenhouse, as the couple shares a cigarette and as one of their sons play in his room, we're haunted by the background noises again of people suffering. Someone is being threatened with a drowning, there are gunshots, general violence, screams of terror and orders being shouted. Eventually, Rudolph makes it back to snowy Oranienburg, At a meeting, we learn that Hitler has approved the deportation of 700,000 Jews from Hungary to Auschwitz, an agreement with the Hungarian government. Back east, the kids are playing outside in the frost, and the older brother makes a game of locking his younger brother in the greenhouse when there's a lot of smoke coming from the camp. There is another staff reshuffle, and Rudolph is assigned again, this time to the Hungary project, which will be called Operation Hoss, their surname. He calls Hedwig very excited to tell her. In fact, he couldn't wait to tell her this news. At the end of the movie, it looks as though we're in the present day. We see two women open a chamber, and I believe there's Polish writing on the door. The woman starts sweeping, another is cleaning the actual ovens. This is grim work. The more we see, what's revealed is that this is the Holocaust Museum that is being maintained. And yeah, this is the zone of interest. I'm still a little haunted by it, but also still really fascinated by this perspective on a subject that we're really familiar with. You absolutely have to see this movie, and if you have, feel free to share your thoughts, and thank you for watching.